Hello and welcome to another webinar in our series for ForeFlight starters. Today we are talking about users with an instrument license, and in the webinar today we only use the ForeFlight starter license. No essential, no premium features in this webinar. That will follow up in the upcoming webinar. What we cover today is first the aircraft setup. Then we execute a simple instrument flight planning, show where you can get the briefing documents, how you can work with flight binders, which information you get during the flight, and how you can review the flight. When we have started on the map tab in the previous VFR webinars, today we will mostly work on the flights and the plates tab. But first let's create an aircraft. For that we switch to the aircraft tab. All mandatory entries are marked in yellow, so we need to give the aircraft and tail number a call sign first. So because today I intend to plan with an Diamond aircraft DA40, I give it an Austrian call sign Oscar Echo Alpha Bravo Charlie. Next step is to select the aircraft type. Put in DA40 in the search line, and all available DA40 profiles are showing up. So when I said in the beginning we are using only a starter license today, it's also useful to already now select the correct profile of your aircraft. So when you intend to upgrade to a premium license later, you already have the pre-selected type and all the performance profiles available, as I said, after upgrading to premium. So on that reason, I select a DA40 next generation with an Austrian engine today for that demonstration. And as you can show, the type is now displayed here. Before continuing to create a basic performance profile, we first switch to the fuel section and change the fuel units from gallons to liters. That will convert also the numbers of the profile. And we put in nearly 6 liters for start, taxi and takeoff fuel. Now we change to performance profiles and add a basic performance profile. That's the same procedure for starter and essential license users. Again, here mandatory numbers or entries are marked in yellow, so we have to put in cruise, true airspeed and cruise fuel per hour. (128 knots true airspeed and 25 liter Jet A1 is these are the numbers for DA40 next generation for 75% power setting. You have to take these numbers out of the aircraft manual. Optional, you can also put in numbers for descent and climb profiles. And this is how the complete basic profile looks like. Now you can give it a name. On top, I put in here 75% power. After defining your basic performance profile, putting in all the number, giving it a name. By the way, I forgot the climb rate and descent rate. I see here. Okay, it's okay. E is optional. You can make these profile default. When going back, you can now see you have a 75% power default performance profile. For instrument flight, it's essential to put in the right filing configuration. That's why we now scroll down to the filing section, and we have to put in the ICAO equipment codes, the ICAO surveillance codes, transponder codes, and the performance-based navigation. Especially performance-based navigation is essential to get proper EUROCONTROL-valid routes. So if we put in here the codes, DA40 is an aircraft with LPV certification, has a DME built in, GPS and so on. So you can put in the codes, and typical code for a DA40 is Bravo for LPV approaches, Delta for DME, G for GPS, R for performance-based navigation, Sierra for standard, which includes VHF, ILS and VOR, and Yankee for the 8.33 kHz frequency spacing of the VHF equipment. Next step is ICAO surveillance. Yeah, we have, of course, ADS-B out. We have an Garmin GTX 33 extended squitter transponder, at least, probably an 345. And yeah, so here we put in the right codes. Please make sure that you have at least mode Sierra here, because mode Sierra is mandatory in Europe. Forgot mode Alpha and mode Charlie. Next step, performance-based navigation. Bravo 2, Charlie 2, Delta 2 and Sierra 1 at least. If you are not sure which information you have to put in, I will show you how to get the right information. In other information, you can put in additional information, for example, name and address of the operator. If you have special things here to put in, you can put in these entries permanently. And also, if you have to file remarks, usually with your aircraft, so then you can put in these remarks here. And when filing a flight plan, this entry will automatically taken into the ICAO flight plan form. To get information, what codes you have to use for your specific aircraft, your equipment, you can change to Documents, go to the ForeFlight drive, select the ForeFlight filing guide, and then in a search line you simply search, for example, for performance-based navigation. Here you can see all entries for performance-based navigation. And voila, on page 42 you can find all codes, what they mean, and notes what to put in specific cases. Okay, back to the aircraft configuration. We go further down, select the emergency radio, enable the ELT, and of course here we can make that aircraft default aircraft. If you are in an aero club, have the option to rent different planes of that kind. You can copy an aircraft, give it another tail number, and then you have every aircraft in your list very fast. In the top right you have the Send To button. You can also share the aircraft configuration with others. Now we start planning our first flight. For that we switch to the Flights section. Tap on the plus in the top left and create your first flight plan form. Now put in planned estimated time of departure, destination, and alternate airport. Alternate is optional, departure, destination of course are mandatory. We change the estimated time of departure, and when putting in departure and destination airport, you can of course use ICAO code, but of course you can also search for a specific name like Friedrichshafen here in that case. For destination I put in the ICAO code of Zurich. We want to go a short flight from Friedrichshafen to Zurich. Now you get a pop-up window to update the planned altitude. This is always the first leg. So that's initially, and it's good advice to update that information to the suggested number. This number is based on the performance profiles, the distance, and so that ForeFlight calculates what makes sense, what altitude you can climb to reach a destination at the proper time. In the top you can now see it's a distance of 41 nautical miles. Estimated time en route is 22 minutes. Estimated time of arrival would be 8:22 Zulu, and flight fuel 15.1 liters. Average headwind is 3 knots. Probably you see, wow, there's a takeoff and landing icon beside departure and destination airport. Takeoff and landing performance calculations available for premium users with the correct aircraft profile. If, like we today, have only a starter or essential license and you tap on these icons, you get a pop-up window what tells you what it is for. If you can learn more, and we say, okay, no thanks, not for today. And we offer you to switch off these icons. You can keep it or hide it. I keep it for today. So now further down, you can now, you see flight rules are IFR. So you can switch the default flight rules from IFR to, well, you can switch your flight rules for that specific flight from IFR to VFR, what we don't want to do today. You can also select an IFR to VFR or a Yankee or a Zulu flight plan. Staying with IFR, now we select the route icon, and ForeFlight calculates the routes for you. You get a recommended route, which is pretty straight. It's a Mickey 1 whiskey departure from Friedrichshafen, flight level 70, 41 minutes. Yeah. So 41 nautical miles, 22 minutes, and nearly 16 liters fuel consumption, IFR. And you see some more options with longer distance, different departures. So if you don't like what you see, you can adjust the route generation by tapping either the icon in the top right of the pop-up window or selecting the 0 to 16,000 feet IFR icon below the headline. Here you can change the maximum altitude for that flight. For example, 16,000 feet is pretty high. You need oxygen or pressurized cabin to fly that height. Or you can also change the flight rules. If you change the flight rules, for example, to Zulu, VFR to IFR, you automatically get the option to select your own IFR pickup or IFR cancel waypoint. That's important if you have a basic instrument license, which allows you to fly en route IFR. So here you can make sure that you have a VFR departure, VFR arrival, but IFR en route by selecting your preferred IFR pickup and IFR cancel waypoints. So now with the Zulu flight plan, without pre-selecting these points, you get a slightly different route. You fly VFR to Alago. There you have your IFR pickup and then fly via AFRA's T732 Negra to Alpha arrival to Zurich in flight level 110. Okay, it's probably a good way to fly an IFR check ride. Okay, again, we want to update the initial altitude. So now it works slightly different. So sometimes this altitude is required to get an EUROCONTROL-valid route. Again, please accept this number, don't change it. In reality, what I experienced in the past 10 years, as long as I'm flying IFR here, always when I get an instrument pickup, the controller asks me, what is your estimated final level? So, or your preferred final level. And then I get that altitude or that level independent from the number in the flight plan. Okay. Now we have our estimated time of departure, destination airport, we have our flight rule, we have our EUROCONTROL-valid route. Now we check the navlog. That is a basic navlog, good enough for VFR flights. What you can do, go to the top right, tap on the gear icon and change the navlog to standard. Here you get many more information so that you can see, for example, which are different wind components in different altitudes, temperatures, and so you get that you have the option to divert also by altitude when flying instrument and you experience icing conditions. This standard navlog template also includes taxi charts for departure and destination airfields. You can send the navlog via email. You can print it, you can save it to files or keep it anywhere where you need it to have the information prepared for a ramp check, for example, or for later review. Next step is the briefing. Briefing is calculated immediately after generating the route. You can see on the right there's a refresh button. It's highly recommended shortly before the flight to update the briefing to get the latest information. Here you have in the briefing the vertical cross-section chart showing wind, temperature, icing and turbulence en route. And then you have a top view. What we can see here is our route, the flight level 110, and we can see there is an icing field. Probably it's a good option to ask for directs amici after the pickup to avoid the icing in flight level 110 and minimize the flight during icing conditions. You have sigma charts, meters, TAFs, also color-coded. There are no sigmats for that day, and you have a lot of NOTAMs. Although the briefing pack can be sent to a printer, sent via email, stored anywhere on your device, so feel free to store it where you want to. Okay, now when we have prepared our flight, we do mass and balance calculation. Initially, because that's a really brand new account, so you will be asked to enable enhanced mass and balance. Yeah, please do that. When enabling enhanced mass and balance, you can select a mass and balance profile. So we don't have a prepared profile for the DA40, so we tap on the plus and we want to add a profile for the created aircraft. And because the DA40 next generation has performance mass and balance templates, we can now select the 4-seat arrangement with standard baggage and tube. We have to put in the numbers for basic empty CG and the basic empty mass. Both numbers are coming from the weighting sheet of your specific aircraft. And mass and balance template is ready. Check all the numbers against your manual and you are ready to go. Okay, now the enhanced profile is available. We select it and now we can put in the weighting information. We can use standard weights or we can put in individual weights and masses. And when you put in a description, that position or that mass is stored for later use. You can see the saved loads. Peter is still available. Yeah. If you put in, for example, like here, 15 pounds in the tail compartment, which is exceeding the maximum limit, so you get a warning or an alert. Change the number, put in the amount of fuel in your tanks, 153 liters, and in the envelope on the right you can see what is the takeoff mass and what is the zero fuel mass with that specific load. Put in taxi fuel, fuel to destination from your flight planning, and you're ready to go. In the summary, you can see all the numbers and you can export the summaries also to a printer, send it via email, save it to files, or store it on your device. Ready to go. Mass and balance is done. Okay, we go back to the Flights tab. Now we can prepare our flight binder. Send that planned flight to the Plates tab, and a new flight binder will be created with your departure and destination airport. And as you can see here, for Zurich arrival 1, approach 1, there are also already some slides pre-selected. If not, like for Friedrichshafen, you can tap on an entry and select the charts you want to add for that specific flight. A much smarter way for creating the flight binder is via the Maps page. After sending the flight, the planned route from flights to the map page, you can see the map, the route on the map. Here the map is still set up for VFR. We simply change it to low VFR, enabling the airways, and that's done. So of course, if you like, you can also add the Europe IFR low en route charts. Personally, I don't like that depiction. Personally, I only fly with a aeronautical map layer in the low IFR setting for instrument flights, because it contains all the information I need for my personal flying. Okay. Open the flight plan window. Here you can see our planned route, and now go or select the procedure icon. Here you can now decide which departure, arrival, approach you want to fly. The Friedrichshafen departures, the arrivals, and the approaches. Depending on the meter information, the approach with the best wind is already marked here, and we select the ILS runway 34 approach for Zurich. First time you get an information that the approach and procedure charts in the starter subscription are not available in a georeference style. If you like to try it, yeah, you can here enable a try. But we skip that message. So after selecting the ILS runway 34 approach, you have now to select your transition. And from our route, we select the initial approach fix Amiki. Okay. Now we have the information in our flight plan window. We send now the change route to plates, and the approach will be added automatically to Zurich. As you can see here, we don't have Jeppesen charts for that demonstration, but you can also fly with the government charts. If you need the same charts for your alternate, tap on adding an alternate. We search for burn Belp, and we add Belp as an alternate airport. Now you can also select airport charts and procedure charts for this alternate airport. You can see the red banner. There's a NOTAM active. Check the NOTAM. There's a taxiway related NOTAM for Bern. Yeah, it's okay. I think the DA40 is a nice plane, but has less than 21.5 meter wingspan. Add a ANAV, and that's done. You can also add an approach, emergency approach for your departure. So if you have to return to your departure airfield, simply add an approach plate for emergency return. And of course, you can also add an takeoff alternate. Using 3 fingers, switches between the pre-selected charts so that you are now perfectly prepared to execute your instrument flight. Which information you have before or in the flight? At first, it is highly recommended to update your pack information before the flight. Comments, weather information, NOTAMs, and if not permanently selected for download, also charts and procedures are now downloaded to your iPad so that you have definitely all required information available during that flight. The dynamic navlog helps you not only to have an overview over the next legs, plan for directs and shortcuts. In the remaining columns, you can see what is remaining time and distance to the next waypoints, and which is a estimated time of arrival within a specific airfield. So if ATC asks you, or waypoint, sorry. So if ATC asks you for that estimate, you can provide that number. Because we are working today with a starter license, no profile view is available. Okay. Let's close the flight plan window and go flying. First, weather information. You enable radar, because there's no radar information in that area. I zoomed a little bit out. The enhanced satellite picture helps you to get weather information and radar, or at least an overview in regions where no radar is available. We have AirMet and SIGMET information. Simply tap on a field, and here you can see in that region you have icing in flight level 25 and above. Tap on the entry to get more detailed information. Check the know times. For that specific day, there is an exercise scheduled over Switzerland. Make sure you don't have any conflicts. Although the starter license provides limited weather information, you still have flight category, which gives you an overview over the conditions at specific airfields worldwide. These airfields are now color-coded: green VFR, blue marginal VFR, red IFR, magenta color, low IFR. If you select an airfield like Altenrhein here, you switch automatically to the weather information. You get Altenrhein VFR condition. And if you're asking why Mengen does not have any color, it's simply because Mengen does not report any meters. Okay, during the flight, you can use the instrument line. The instrument line helps you to get additional information, like, for example, Zulu time, nearest borough, like the estimates to the next waypoint, and many things more. After the flight, you will review the flight. For that, we switch to the logbook feature, and what you can see here now is that you have the option to switch your logbook to the Europe version. Okay, it's the first flight, no entries available. You can manually add an entry or select a track log for that entry. Put in the aircraft. Okay, aircraft has a specific section for aircraft. Logbook has a specific section for aircraft. You can here specify make, model, gear type, engine type, and the category and class. It's a Diamond DA40, a next generation, fixed gear tricycle, piston aircraft, single engine, piston land. You can add in photo and many things more. Okay, then you put in your times, and as you can see here, there are a lot of entries. To change that, go to settings. Here, by the way, you can also change back to the United States or the FAA version of the logbook. But you can also change your time format, how the drafts entries should be created, many things more. So change the time to hours and minutes. Create drafts based on track logs as default. Auto detect towered airports in entries. And the total time calculation should not based on hops should be on flight time. Hops and tag are usually used when renting aircraft. Sometimes hops time, sometimes tag time is enabled. One time is when switching on the battery power. The other time is when the engine is running. Flight time is when you start taxiing until you stop after taxiing. And you can also select which fields should be automatically filled out. So if you are flying mostly as a pilot in command, you can select it here. And if you're flying mostly cross country, you simply select these numbers here. There are also other options. And you can configure the fields you want to show. So, of course, we want to see the route. We want to disable hops and tag because we don't use it. But we enable multi-pilot and pilot in command under supervision for specific flight training, for example. Further down, you can enable how you want to calculate your instrument time. FAA rules says that instrument time is instrument flight under instrument meteorological conditions. The EASA rule says IFR is time operated under an instrument flight plan. And here you can select which rules you want to calculate in your logbook, so that you can also keep both, for example. Okay, if that's not enough, if you have specific operation, you want to add specific things, you can also create a new custom field and put in time, numeric numbers, hours and minutes, or anything more you want to add to that specific field. Going back to our flight, now you can see the changed fields, and you can use the time displayed in the blue field, or you put in your specific number and total time pilot in command will be calculated. You put in the total amount of day takeoff, night takeoff, day landing, night landing. Or if it's in approaches, holds, anything you need to use in your logbook. You can give tags, for example, for proficiency checks or initial checks, refresher training, whatever counts for your license. Let's make it a check ride. Of course, you can also add specific crew members or passengers to that flight. And what you can also do, add photos. ForeFlight is discovering which photos you have taken during the flight time, or you can access also your library. I simply select that picture and add it to that flight. Okay. If you want to automatically record your flights, go to settings and make sure that enable auto start and stop is switched on. ForeFlight automatically calculates the takeoff time and the landing time based on the speed and altitude, GPS altitude. Okay, on the left side now you have currencies, and here you can see, okay, everything is outdated, expired. We need to change these information. Go to license certifications, add your license. You can put in your licenses, you can put in your medical certificates, radio licenses, language proficiencies, and all the things you need to check. We put in the numbers for class 2 medical, date issued, date expired. You can put in a photo. And now you can see on the left side, medical now has 366 days left. Okay, English proficiency, same. It's level 4. Day taken, expires, and then 944 days left. So for 90-day passenger single engine piston, that requires at least 3 takeoffs and landing in an aircraft. So how does it work? So I go back to our flight and change the total number of days of day takeoffs and day landings to 3, and automatically on the left side the number is refreshed, and now you can see for the next 90 days you can take passengers in your aircraft. Okay, that's done. Okay, that's for today's webinar. We will follow up with a Q&A section now. If your question is not answered, please send an email to team@foreflight.com. And yeah, now let's go on with answering some questions.